I started off in customer service. I started off working at Wawa. And I think that my dad always told me, which is what I call my best friend's dad, my dad, because he was very much a father figure in my life, that personal injury is a customer service business. It is all about how your clients view you. And it's all about making sure that they're happy at the end of the day. And he instilled in me very young that this is, all about client appreciation and making sure that the way that you handle each and every person is personalized and that not everybody is the same.
Law school taught you the law, but it didn't teach you this, how to connect. Be that one lawyer who shows up different, the one clients trust, the one they never forget. I'm Neil Goldstein, and this is That One Lawyer Podcast. Let's get started. Today's guest is not only an attorney, she's a disruptor, an advocate, and a walking example of what happens when you own every part of who you are. Heather Reese is a personal injury lawyer based in Philly, but her influence spans fashion, activism, and digital storytelling. She's been called a model, a mentor, and a movement. Whether she's represented injured clients, mentoring future Latina lawyers, or walking the runway with confidence, Heather reminds us that the courtroom isn't the only place where power and purpose meet. Heather, welcome to That One Lawyer Podcast.
Thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
It's great having you, and I know we're going to have a great conversation today because that's what this is. It's only a conversation. And so I don't know you that long, but I know you a little bit. So why don't you give everybody a little bit of your backstory?
Sure. So I'm adopted from Peru. I was adopted into a Jewish home in Delaware. My parents got divorced when I was around 10, and they split up and moved to different states. And I got to live with my best friend when I was 15. And her dad was a personal injury attorney in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. And I got to go see him do arbitrations and trials. And I fell in love with it. And I said, that's what I want to do when I get older. And honestly, it was so much better than going to school. So I said, this is it. I think I found it. And that's kind of how my story began.
And you do personal injury work. How did you find that path?
Yeah, I mean, it was solely from watching him. Like, he was a personal injury attorney. I do exactly what he did. When I was in college, I interned for him. My first job at a law school was at a firm that he was at as well. I think just watching the way that he was able to communicate with the victims, the arbitrators, and juries kind of showed to me like this is something I really want to be able to do. It's brings storytelling to a whole nother level. And it's not ever changing what somebody is saying, but it's a way of making facts more digestible for the people that have to kind of take it in.
And with respect to, I think personal injury, if you're going to be successful at it, I think you always need to have the ability to communicate really well with your clients. Sure. I mean, you could be a great appeals person and never have to deal with a client in your life. And I guess you could still do well. But with personal injury in particular, and if you're going to be doing depositions or even trials for sure, you really have to have good relationships with your clients. Do you have that same philosophy?
Yeah, I think that I started off in customer service. I started off working at Wawa. And I think that my dad always told me, which is what I call my best friend's dad, my dad, because he was very much a father figure in my life, that personal injury is a customer service business. It is all about how your clients view you. And it's all about making sure that they're happy at the end of the day. And he instilled in me very young that this is, all about client appreciation and making sure that the way that you handle each and every person is personalized and that not everybody is the same and not everybody is injured the same way. And that while, a back injury can feel like it's the same kind of thing and injuries may look kind of similar, they're going to feel different to each person. And you can't kind of lump people into the same thing. You have to make everyone feel special and make everyone feel like they are an individual in your eyes.
Yeah, I agree. I think that, for me, from the very beginning, even, when I first started, I was always connected to the idea of, you know, meeting new people and trying to help people who've been injured through no fault of their own and really trying to guide them. I think my backstory has something to do with, my mother who was not well and taking care of her. And I guess, your level of sympathy and empathy for people is probably multiplied by some large factor when you grow up that way. Do you think there was something? I know your dad was your role model. Do you think there was anything else in your background that led you to be so embedded in relating to people on a one-to-one basis?
Yeah, I mean, I think when I got diagnosed with autoimmune conditions, so when I got diagnosed with lupus and RA, every part of my life changed. And I started to realize that dealing with a lifetime of pain is something that no one else can really understand other than people that go through it. And it really made me view what my clients say incredibly differently, because it's one thing to hear somebody say that it hurts every morning to wake up. And it's another thing to experience it hurting every morning to wake up. And I think that when that happened to me, a whole part of the way that I view the practice of personal injury changed, because everything about me changed, right? I had to view the way that I handle my life. I had to view the way that this disease had an effect on my daily living. And I think it really altered and made me evaluate differently how my clients go through it. So I mean, I think, yeah, that has a huge factor. And now as an attorney who's been doing it a little bit longer than when I first started out, takes on cases and views people with serious injuries.
You've talked about starting over at 32. What did that chapter teach you about resilience?
Yeah, no, when I got divorced, when I started all over, everything in my life changed. I mean, it taught me that nothing can break me. I think that that was the biggest thing. I think people go through life thinking, can it get worse? And then what happens when it gets worse? Can you face it? And I think when you hit when something hits you really hard in the face, you say to yourself, and can I get through it? Can I push through it, or is it going to hit me and am I going to fall? And I remember thinking, I don't know what I'm going to do, right? Like I don't know. I mean, this was just 2 weeks into my brand new job. I'm like showing up to work being like, how am I going to maintain my career and try to maintain my life? And I said, I'm never going to let something break me. I'm going to push through it. And I think that that showed me that absolutely nothing can stop me. That like an autoimmune disease, a man, a job, a no from a job, a no from a modeling gig, a no from a collaboration, a no from anything can't break me, because I said I can push through it.
I often think about the challenges that many of us have gone through. And I've always said, and I'm sure you feel the same way, that I wouldn't change anything in the past because that's what brought me to where I am today and has given me the tools to deal with what inevitably is going to happen again. There's going to be challenges as they always will in life. And, I always think, well, my kids, they had it better than me. I mean, they've had their own challenges also, but I think that it gives you almost superpowers when you've been through that and you now have to deal with something else and now you're better equipped. Do you feel that way?
Yeah, I'm so grateful for it. I wouldn't change it for a minute, because I always say to people when I'm asked, like, I always thought different opportunities and all these opportunities in my life would happen to me. I just didn't think they might not happen to me in this lifetime. I kept saying, like, oh, this opportunity is meant for me eventually, but maybe just not in this lifetime, maybe in the next lifetime. And after this thing happened in my life, I said, every opportunity that I can reach for is meant for me in this lifetime. And I think that's the big thing that shifted in my brain, is that I said, I'm going to go after everything. And, that never would have shifted if that hadn't happened. So I wouldn't change it for the world, because I would have continued to live in a moment, in a lifetime, in a thought process that said, I'm okay with complacency and saying that maybe it's meant for me in the next lifetime, instead of trying to seize it in this lifetime.
I know in your podcast you've shared a lot about vulnerability, and I know you're a great storyteller. How do you use that, if at all, with clients or at work How does that, are you able to mix that in at all to create more bonds with clients and relationships?
Yeah, I mean, I think a lot of clients have found me through social media and through all the other things that I do in life. And I think being vulnerable on the internet and being vulnerable in my everyday life has opened so many doors to me, right? I think that so many people in professional spaces have this kind of mindset where you have to be very conservative, very strict, very closed mouth, very uptight. And like that may have been true a while ago, but I always tell people like I'm not your dad's lawyer. Like that's just not who I am. I don't live in that time frame anymore, and that's fine if that's who you are. That's just not for me. And if that's the kind of person that that client's looking for, then I'm not the attorney for them, right? But I've found so many clients that are like, I'm happy to see that like my attorney, has so many different facets of their life, right? Because the reality of it is, and in being vulnerable, is that being an attorney in today's society isn't the same as being an attorney in the 90s, right? Like you need multiple streams of income in 2025 to be out here surviving in a world that we're in now, right? So like I'm doing it because I need multiple streams of income. Because the reality is I have expensive taste in life. I have student loans. So like that's a big portion of it. So I mean, I'm out here telling my life exactly as it is. And I think that people like vulnerability. People want to see that I'm not perfect. And I never say I'm perfect. You know what I mean? That's a huge part of me in real life and in practice that if I don't know something, I say I don't know it. I've never been the attorney that's been like, I know every single thing. I can help you with every single specialty. That's malpractice, and we all know it. Like, that's not me. If I
Yeah.
don't know it, I don't know it. And I never want to be the smartest person in the room. I'm always looking for somebody. I'm always looking for rooms where I can learn more. And I always tell people I'm teachable, right? I always want to be teachable and be around people that can help me learn and grow.
You mean there are lawyers out there that say they know everything?
I think some people do, yeah.
Yes, I know that. So you were talking about different facets of your life, and you're a mentor, you're an activist, you're a lawyer, you're a model. What's the common thread?
I think like what you always talk about, right? Being authentic, just being you, right? Like I'm Heather, like I think people always say to me, like, I'm a lawyer. A lawyer is my job, but Heather is my brand. Like I'm
Mhm.
Heather, and everything else just kind of falls into the place of where whatever else it is. But like, I'm just a human. I'm just a girl trying to make it in 2025.
Yeah, I hear you. But look, we still have a profession, the legal profession. And yes, I agree, it has changed, but it still has this virtue signaling piece about it. And I'll ask you about law school and that in a minute. And being a model is very different. In one, you're more buttoned up, if you will, and one a little bit less. How do you manage that?
You know, I've wanted to like print out deposition transcripts where I've gotten the nicest compliments from defendants where they're like, you are dressed so well. And I'm like, for me, it's like, I don't think that the way that I dress or the way that I am has any reflection on my professionalism because the proof is in the pudding. Like, look at my Google reviews. Like,
Mhm.
clients love me. I do a good job. I'm a zealous advocate. And I think that the Gen Zs that are coming after me are doing an amazing job at just like obliterating that mindset. I'm a millennial, so I'm like a little bit more tired. Like, yes, I push the boundaries a little bit, but I still like don't push it fully, right? Like, I'm still in a blazer in court. I'm still wearing like a longer dress. I'm still trying to be a little bit more conservative, but I'm trying to give it a little bit of edge because at the end of the day, that's who I am, right? Like I want my personality to show through because that's who my clients know me as, right? Like I'm not going to be a conservative gray suit bland girl, just not me.
Right. So the same Heather that shows up in a courtroom is pretty much the same Heather on a photo shoot.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah, because here's the thing about the photo shoots is I'm very particular in the stuff that the people that I will work with and the things that I will allow to be photographed of me, right? So when I'm doing stuff like that, I am very particular in the things that I will agree to do because of the job that I do. Now, in that same notion, I am a human And humans wear bathing suits, just like a doctors wear bathing suits, just like a janitor wears a bathing suit, just like a nurse wears a bathing suit. So there's pictures of me in bathing suits in my everyday life on Facebook or wherever. But I try to be mindful of what I'm wearing and what I'm doing, and whether or not I would find it appropriate as just me, not as a lawyer, but as me. But I think I have gotten a lot of kickback, and I've gotten a lot, like you wouldn't be shocked actually, the amount of messages that I get and DMs that I get from angry people about what I'm willing to show and what people see me in. I wear crop tops, and people are up in arms, right? Like a
Well,
lawyer in a crop top.
what kind of feedback are you getting? I know people are angry, you said?
Oh my gosh, yes. No, I get like hate threats. I get like death
Oh,
threats. I mean, it's crazy. It's really the amount of love I get. I probably get a third of as much angriness and body hate. But I think for me, it's like I've never sought validation in others. So I think, and I say this when I go on a lot of modeling stuff, when you truly love yourself, you don't seek validation in others. So I don't care if you don't like my body, right? I like my body. I don't care if you're mad that I'm wearing a crop top. I'm gonna wear a crop top. It says Latina on it, right? Like it represents what I love. It's a piece of who I am. So it's to me something that I believe in, that I stand firm on. It might even just be a regular white shirt that's a crop top. I mean, it might be me at the gym. Like
right.
the amount of people that get mad at me at the gym wearing gym clothes is crazy, because it's like, do you want me to work out or do you not want me to work out? Because when I don't work out and I'm eating on the couch, you're mad. But then when I'm working out, you're mad. So it's like, as a woman in 2025, you can't win. And then as a lawyer and a woman, you really can't win, because it's like I showed too much of my life. And then people are like, she's a lawyer, but she's also an influencer, but she does all this other stuff. So is she really a lawyer? And it's like, yeah, no, I'm a real life lawyer all of the time. I have two phones. I'm about to go to my bachelorette party, but I promise you, I will get like 10 client calls while I'm away. And the big thing my best friend's dad always taught me is that I'm always reachable, and that I will answer you within 24 hours, whether if it's just an acknowledgement of your messaging me, hey, I'm unable to answer right now, but I don't ignore. I will always say, like, I'm unable to answer, because I never want to be the person that a client says, she didn't answer me. She was uncommunicated.
Right. Right.
That's like a big no-no to me.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's interesting that you talk about all of that. I mean, you've been very outspoken about your identity, Latina, plus size model, lawyer, mentor. That's a hell of a mix. You ever feel like, do you ever feel ever that you have to pick a lane?
You know, I feel like I did niche it down. Like, I feel like this is a niche. Like, I feel like I feel like the niche is Latina. And I feel like I happen to have three professions. I happen to be a model, a lawyer, and a content creator. But I feel like Latina's the niche. Cause like you don't see me out here in like lifestyle. I'm not like doing all this other stuff. But yeah, no, I mean, I think activism is so important. And I think that for me, being an activist was just like second nature, right? Like as a millennial, it's so important to be an activist, because we're at an age where, especially as a lawyer, you know what I mean? Like
Right.
depending on where you work though, like this is all of everything that I say is all really contingent on where you work and who you work for. When I came into the firm that I worked for, I said to them, I have a social media presence. I'm working on building. If this is something that's not cool, let me know, because then I don't know if this is a spot. They knew it was something that was discussed upon being hired. And they've been supportive of it. I think that's all really contingent on where you work. Like I don't work in big law, right? If I worked in big law, you wouldn't probably see me out here doing all of this stuff.
Correct.
Right. So I think I'm very privileged in that aspect. I have a very big luxury. My boss um is a really old fashioned man. Don't get me wrong. Like he's always like, what are you doing out here? He's 85 and he doesn't always understand it. Like he wants me in the office at 6 a.m. He always says that to me. He's like, early bird gets the worm. I'm like, I'm a midday croissant gal.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But
Yeah.
it's very different. It really depends on where you work. I'm very blessed. I have a very big luxury on where I work in terms of what you can do and how you can speak. And I think a lot of people that I know that do the things that I do own their own firms. So that's the other thing, right? When you own your own firm, you can do and say whatever you want.
So, I mean, so let's stay on that for a minute. Is there something, I mean, you talked about earlier about how the legal industry has changed, that the traditional lawyer has changed, and that is 100% true. But what still frustrates you? What still frustrates you about the legal system?
I guess like the old boys club because it's still alive
I,
and
I,
well.
by the way, you must have been reading something, because I have a note here, a sticky note that says "Good Old Boys Club," because I still think that there's some of that that still lingers
Oh
in the
yeah.
courthouses and in depositions. And I remember when I hired a young lady, to be one of our attorneys, and I said to her, "This still goes on," and she was great because she killed it, and it was, it wasn't a problem for her. But I'm amazed that it still goes on. I am amazed.
Yeah, I will say that this is the first place I've ever worked at where I have worked for people that, I'm trying to say this in the most articulate way, have been the most respectful of of being a different gender. Like, and I don't know if it's because they're older and it's more of like a daughter thing, but it's never viewed it as like an inappropriate thing, where sometimes when you speak to opposing counsel, it's inappropriate. And I've had a lot of conversations where I've been made to feel uncomfortable, not at my firm, but when you speak with people where people say things that are borderline uncomfortable, right? And I'm not like that. I'm not the one, I think, that I'm like quiet. Like I'm going to call somebody out. And that's like probably the number one thing that my best friend's dad told me not to do. Right. Cause he's an older man. And he was like, just let it go. Let it go. And I'm like, no, I'm like, your generation, let it go. That's why some of those older women are like always say, let it go too, because they're like, it could be worse. I don't want to live in a generation if it could be worse. No, 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 no. I'm going to say something. And like what I've decided to say, which is what I usually say, is I say, oh my God, that's like so weird. You're like the same age as my dad. That's crazy.
Hmm.
You might know my dad. Maybe you guys like went to law school together. Maybe you graduated law school together. My dad and you. Because like I want to bring it back to them realizing that they're significantly older than me. We're not the same age. And maybe it might make you feel a tinge uncomfortable. It might not. It might not even work. Sometimes it doesn't work. But I'm hoping that it might, because it is still very much, and you're in a world where sometimes people are like, sweetie, honey, oh, sugar. I've asked my dad this. Has anybody ever mentioned the way that you've dressed in your life? No. And no one's ever mentioned it. Once. No judge, no opposing counsel. Never. I said, I can count on double my hands how many times people have commented on the way that I've dressed, not just attorneys, court staff, other people higher up. And it's wild to me the level that people feel comfortable commenting on a woman's body and commenting on the way that, I'm not even saying that they're insulting, and I'm not saying that they're always inappropriate, but just that people feel comfortable enough to do it. And it's such a weird like thing that society has allowed people to do. Cause like I've never walked up to a man and been like, that suit fits well.
Right. Right.
Especially when I don't know them. You know what I mean? Like an
Right.
opposing counsel, like just walking into a random motion hearing and being like, hey, man, that suit fits well. It's just weird. But yeah, the good old boys club is alive and well. I do have faith for the Gen Zs because they are wild, more wild than I've ever seen. They leave at lunch. They ask for like 150 grand for their first job. Like
Yeah.
they're crazy.
Yeah, and like you said, I'm sure you get plenty of people who also, thank you or compliment you on who you are and your advocacy, because your advocacy and your respect for your clients and your humanity rides above anything that you might be wearing or saying, elsewhere. So I think that's catching on more and more with newer generations. And so I think you're right. You're always going to have a little bit of that other stuff around. But I think you're doing whatever it is that you're doing is obviously lifting up other people, and you're getting feedback from that as well.
Yeah. I think all you can do is try to make it a little bit easier for the next generation. Listen, I'm not out here wearing a crop top to court, right?
Right, right,
I
right.
know I know to wear a blazer to court.
So,
I know to be respectful.
so let me just take a U-turn for a minute and go back to law school. How was law school for you? What was the experience like? And is it is law everything you thought it would be?
No. And law school was an interesting experience. I went to the law school that my best friend's dad went to. I didn't apply to any other law schools. I went to Delaware Law, the only law school in Delaware.
Good school.
Yes, I love Delaware. I think for me, I always struggled in school. I have ADHD and I had IEPs growing up. And I went to private school, a private Jewish school, and I was used to having a tutor. I was used to having one on one. I didn't get extended time for my LSATs, and I didn't want to get accommodations for law school in the beginning because I wanted to be just like everybody else. So my first year was pretty tough. And I think I wasn't used to being around a group of people who were all told that they were the smartest people for their entire lives. And that was an incredibly new experience. I had never been told I was the smartest person. My adopted mom is a very smart woman. She is a computer scientist. She graduated high school at like 15. She was one of like the few female scientists at DuPont. She was very well accomplished and she had high expectations always. So it wasn't something that was like, it wasn't something that she often said, right? She wasn't that type of person. So I didn't come into the same kind of mindset as these other kids, I think, that I was going to law school with. And I think that was tough for me. I think it was really tough being around people that were all really used to being the best and then having this like harsh reality of being told that they weren't. Where I was like, yeah, dude, like, did you really think you were gonna get an A? I didn't think that. Like I was stoked with like a C. Like I was like,
Right.
whatever. And like I took advantage of like teachers' hours, right? Like the second I heard about professors' hours, like I had always done that through high school. I had always done that through tutoring. Like that was the big thing my mom did instill in me, right? She always wanted me to have a one on one tutor. So I would always take advantage of those hours where other people did not do that. So for me, like all those things kind of felt second nature. I wish that there had been a law school class on what it would be like to be a woman in law, because I think that that is something that they don't teach you. I wish there was a class what it would be like to be a minority woman in law, because
Mhm.
that is something that's even different. Um, because you really are hit in the face when you go into the legal field and you realize that nobody looks like you. But yeah, did I love it? No. But did I make some amazing friends? Yeah. Yeah. And I think you trauma bond with these people for 3 years. Somebody I went to law school with refers me cases all the time. So I mean, I made relationships out of that. One of them is one of my really good friends. I still talk to some of their professors, the ones that believed in me since day one. But I do think the way that law school is kind of built and the way that people are that go to law school, at least the law school that I went to, was very different than what I was expecting. But that was just me. Maybe because I didn't read all the books that were like what law school would be like, and all of those like summer reading books that would be like 1L hell or whatever.
Right.
Like I didn't
Right.
know what to expect. I thought it was just going to be like regular school, so I kind of expected it to be like kind of crappy, and it was kind of crappy. I didn't expect the curve to be so harsh, but yeah.
Did you find, I'm just curious, did you find your law school colleagues to be accepting?
I don't think they were not accepting. I think that I made a good group of friends first year. And like, it's so weird because I look back at this and I'm like, I went on vacation with somebody I had known for like for 6 months. Like, that's such a weird thing to do. I would never do that
Right.
now. But
Right.
it's because those 6 months feel like 10 years.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because you're going through this like a whole semester of this like traumatic experience. But like, yeah, I mean, I think that I did feel a good level of acceptance. Do you all drift apart after law school? Sometimes, a lot of the times. Do I talk to a lot of them? No. But I think that everyone I met all had amazing attributes. And I, you know, I'm happy that I made the friends that I made there.
You mentioned about, I love your suggestions about the additional courses that law school could have given you. And I know that I know that you feel a special responsibility as being a Latina lawyer to others. So can you talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, I mean, I have a bit of a different situation, right? Because I was raised in a white home. I didn't really start pushing more into learning about my Latina heritage until like probably the last 4 5 years. But the reality is, even if I wasn't pushing for it, it was always pushing for me. I can't hide that I look Latina. So there were always microaggressions that I never picked up on until I started to be around other Latinas and learned that these were microaggressions that I just was never made. I just didn't know. I think for me, because of the fact that and I never hide this, I was raised very privileged. I will never say I'm an underdog. I will never say that I struggled. I struggled in different aspects, but I did not struggle on my path into law school when it comes to access and availability. And I think it's incredibly important for people like me to say that because it is a disservice if I weren't to say that. My best friend's dad was a lawyer. My mom knew other lawyers. Mentorship is huge. And it's incredibly, incredibly gate kept. And when it is gate kept, it keeps a large portion of people out. People like minority groups. I don't think I had ever met another Latina in any of the mentoring things that I had ever gone to in law school or in undergrad, in any of the things that my best friend's dad had taken me to. And that's a harsh reality for me. And it was a harsh reality for me when I went into the area of practice because I said, I have never worked with another Latina lawyer. And that's crazy. Latina lawyers make up 2.5%. That was the stat about a year or 2 years ago. It might be a little bit different now. It might be 2.8. I can't remember the exact amount. But that's so insane. Like, that's an insane amount. And I believe this is what I believe. It stems from the lack of mentorship. It stems from the lack of accessibility. My parents knew lawyers. My parents knew the doors to get me into. My dad knew the internships to get me. I got to internship at the district attorney's office of Philadelphia when I was in law school. Like, I had access to all these amazing people. And that's why I think it's so important that when people like me have access to this, that we make sure the pathway for other people is easy, that we can give them access. Because if not, we're not going to change it. And we're still always going to have these low numbers. And it's just not right. It just doesn't make sense because reality is people want representation of people that look like them sometimes. Not all the time. And I'm not saying that everyone has to have somebody that looks like them that represents them. But in today's climate, sometimes people feel more comfortable with somebody that looks like them, speaks their language, understands their culture. There are nuances that not everyone understands. There are dialects that not everyone understands. And I think it's important for representation to be available for everyone. So yeah, I think it's
So
important.
that very well said. And has there been a moment when you've received some feedback from somebody who said something really positive and you said to yourself, hey, it's worth it. It's all worth it what I'm doing.
Yeah. I think a lot of the times like I get emotional because there's so much mean crap that people say. And then there are moments where like I'm in my DMs and I'll get like, and it's through threads a lot of the times, and I'll get like the young girls just graduating. Cause like right now it's the best. Like honestly, if you go on TikTok right now and you look at all the young Latinas graduating college, it's so emotional and it's so great. And I made like a thread and I said, any Latina that is looking to go to law school, or if they're an undergrad thinking about it, or if they're in college, or if they're in high school, reach out to me. And it was just so many people that reached out to me. And I was so moved because it's like, whatever I can do, whatever I can tell you, I don't have $1 billion, but if there's words of encouragement that I can give you, if there are people that I can put you in contact with, because the best thing about social media is that I've met people from all around the world. I've met people from all around the United States because of the fact that I do the showcase with Latina businesses. I've met people in Texas. I've met people in California. I've met people in all across the US. And if I can get them in contact with anybody, it's it's amazing. And I mean, it's just one girl saying to me, "I can't believe you did it." And I think I can do it too. Or a woman said to me, she's like, I'm 40, I'm a mom. I didn't think I can do it. And I said, I'm 34. And sometimes I don't think I can do it, but if you want me to text you once a week and tell you that you can do it, send me your number.
That's really, that to me is probably one of the most affirming and feel, it's one of the best things anybody could do for you is to remind you that what you've just done, whether it's speaking or writing a book or, posting some content somewhere, when you get some feedback from them, then saying, you just moved me in some way. You just, I read something that you wrote and I really have to give that some thought. I remember when I was finishing my book and I remember finishing the book and I remember I called my daughter up and I said, this is what I said to my daughter. I said, who the hell's going to read this book? This is really stupid. Like, why did I spend so much time doing it? She said, did you write it? I said, yeah, I wrote it. And she said, did you like what you wrote? I said, yeah. She said, well, then put it out there. Then about a day or two after it was published and it was out there, I got a call from somebody that I didn't know well, but I had some connections with. And they said, we read your whole book, me and my husband. We're going out tonight and we're going to have dinner and we're going to talk about A, B, and C that you talked about. And I said, holy shit, this really did touch somebody, did move somebody. And I got a number of other people who said the same thing. So when you get that feedback, even if it's a small group of people, whatever it is, when you get that feedback, it's just a reminder to you that what you're doing matters. It doesn't have to reach 1 billion people, 1 million people, 1,000 people, or even 100 people. But if it reaches a few people, even if it reaches a few people, and you've changed them in some way, you've made a significant change, a significant change. So it's something to really feel good about. Talking about digital content, which that's part of who you are. The average person now spends about 7.5 hours online.
That's
And
crazy.
and how do you prevent the world out there from becoming less authentic by having so much digital? How do you really be who you are when there's so much digital out there? So, in one respect, it's good because it introduces us to each other, right? But is there another side to it, and how do you deal with that?
You know what I think it is I think how I kind of say like I keep it authentic is like just a perfect example earlier when the producer was like, "Do you care about how it looks on you?" Right? I always tell people like, and it's a perfect example when people ask me about photos. I always say like, I don't care what angle you take it of me, right? Because reality is people are going to see every angle of me. And I'll never be the person that when they go to take a photo, I'm like, nope, it has to be on this side. It has to be this way. It has to be this angle. So I feel like for me, that's how I try to keep it authentic is I try to say like, whatever is being put out there with me, it's out there. You know what I mean? Like I try not to edit it as much. I think I did a lot in the beginning when I was first on social media. I edited more. Like I was really afraid to do lives. And now I'm like, I always tell people like, if you want to do a live, we can do a live. Like, what's the worst somebody's going to hear about me? You know what I
Right,
mean? At this
right.
point, like, so yeah, I mean, I think You spend a lot of time online. I spend a lot of time online. I do a lot of batch content. So I film a lot like on one day and then I schedule it out so it doesn't consume so much of my time. Or I take like a day and I'll go through and I'll like a whole bunch of stuff and comment on a whole bunch of stuff. But I think the way for me to keep it authentic is to try to keep it as real as possible and try to be as, for me, like I said, easygoing as possible about it.
Are you concerned, especially with the younger generation? Although I consider you the younger generation, you have another generation following you. Are you concerned about the level of digital and AI, and that we're becoming less authentic, or do you feel there's still a hunger for authenticity?
Well, I think I'm very nervous, but when I work with people, I always say I don't want my stuff edited. Like I say, you can edit specific things. I never want my body edited. I don't wear shapewear. I am very particular on specific things when it comes to that because I think it's very dangerous for the younger generation because you see so much body smoothing. You see so much of the getting rid of cellulite. And I love the models that are saying, don't do that. Show me exactly as I am. And I want that to stay that way. And I'm very, 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 I try to be very, very strict on that. So for me, I think that's the safest way we can kind of do it with the younger generation is to be very firm on the way that you portray yourself on the internet, especially when it comes to photographs, especially when it comes to models. To say like, this is what I look like. This is what I am. Like you can enhance yourself with makeup or whatever you want to do, but um just make sure that you're not completely altering it when it comes to the way that it's going to show up on a photograph. Whatever you choose to do plastic surgeon wise is plastic is whatever, but when it comes to the way somebody is absorbing something in a photograph, I think I see my niece swipe. She's 15. I get so anxious because she's watching these girls and she's seeing all this stuff. And I'm always like, that's not reality. Like, that's why I also try to show myself on the internet where my life isn't perfect, right? There's videos of me crying, like when I'm dealing with a flare up. And I try to really post that stuff because I want people to see, like, hey, like, yeah, you just might have seen me like in Austin killing it, but I want you to see that, like, I'm now sitting here with like leg compressors on my leg. And like, this is the reality of my life is that it's not always perfect. It's not always great because I don't want people to, think that everything's great. Everything's perfect all the time. It's not.
Yeah, well, I wish there were more people like Heather around. So we have three questions that we ask everybody. So I'll throw them out to you. They're relatively straightforward. What's one thing that you would tell a young lawyer or somebody going to law school? Something that you wish that maybe somebody told you that would help them stand out as that one lawyer.
Don't compromise your integrity.
If you could go back and talk to your younger self, what would you say, knowing everything that you know today?
Always ask for more.
Is there someone you've lost personally or professionally who you'd want one more conversation with? What would you say to them if you had that moment?
My grandma. And I think I would say to her, how did you learn the things that weren't worth fighting for? Like, when did you learn the skill of what was worth not fighting over?
Cool. Thank you for being on the show. How can people contact you if they want you to talk for them, or if they want to consult with you about something? They just want to ask you some questions. How does somebody find you?
My Instagram is the best way to get a hold of me. It's Heather_RXOXO. And yeah, just DM me. That's the best way to get a hold of me.
Very cool. Thank you for being on the show. And I know I'm going to see you soon.
Thank you so much.
If something here hits home for you, don't keep it to yourself. Tap subscribe, drop a comment, and share this with a lawyer who needs to really hear it. This is That One Lawyer Podcast. See you next time.